People were looking for loved ones. People were missing. Over 37,000 people were missing after that day. And firefighters were going in the rubble and getting survivors.
As the towers were collapsing, people on the streets were also getting killed from the debris.
Hi, I'm Christy Boland, and I was 15 during September 11th, 2001. I was in my second class, history. It was around 9 a.m. and the teachers told us that a plane went into the Twin Towers, and we were just confused. We didn't know what to think of it. We didn't know it was an attack.
Hi, my name is Denise Boland, and my husband and I were there at the towers on September 11, 2001. My husband and I drove in to the city, and for some strange reason, I thought, just another boring Tuesday. So weird that I would think that. It was early. It was about maybe 20 to 8 in the morning, and my husband Walter was supposed to go to 2 customers. One customer was on the 93rd floor in the first tower, and the second customer was Morgan Stanley, the 44th floor of the second tower. Because we got there before 8 o'clock, his customer in the first tower wasn't in yet. So he said, let me go to Morgan Stanley first. That saved his life, because he would have been on the floor where the plane hit.
Somebody had said to me, there aren't any trade center. There isn't a trade center any longer. And I said, what do you mean? I just came from there. And they said, no, you couldn't have been in there. And I showed them my ID card that I was there. And they looked at me like they had seen a ghost. They said, well, the buildings had just collapsed. Both buildings.
So I had to drop him off at the World Trade Center that Tuesday morning. I drove to my job, which was on 43rd and 12th. I'm sitting at my desk, and then I hear the towers are on fire. So I looked out the window and I can see the first tower in flames.
I turned my head and my girlfriend screamed, and I turned back and all I saw flames. I never thought that this plane was going into that building. It was almost like it wasn't real. It was almost like we were watching a movie. I wasn't sure which tower my husband was in because he has different clients in both towers. I ran to the phone and I called his cell phone, and they said all circuits were busy. So just started praying that God would just surround him with his angels, protect him, keep him safe, get him out of the building.
He was in the second tower. He saw from the side of his eye papers and flames. He went over to see what was going on. He saw the first tower was on fire. He alerted everyone in Morgan Stanley that they had to evacuate the building.
I looked out the window and I saw debris flying through the air. And I looked closely, and it was paper, it was sheetrock, it was smoke. And I looked even more closely, and I looked outside, and I saw flames and pieces of ceilings and walls burning on the street. Something in my spirit told me I needed to get out of the building. I was not waiting for anything. I looked at the people that were there, and they looked at me, and I said, I'm leaving, I'm getting out of here. Most of the people, they just followed along with me down the stairs. When I got to the bottom, I wasn't out of breath, I wasn't breathing heavy. I was sweating a lot, maybe because of the heat. But I was just, for some reason, something came over me, and I was just determined just to get out of the building.
During the course of the day, people were starting to panic, saying it was a terrorist attack, that this was going to be the start of World War III. A couple students went up on the roof, and they saw the smoke from Brooklyn, all the way from Manhattan. So you could see it from all over New York. You could smell it. We could smell it from our house.
Walter and his co-workers made their way down 88 flights of stairs. Just as he exited Tower 2, the second plane hit.
Everybody dove on the floor. Glass was shattering. Buildings, the windows in the stores were smashing. Glass was flying. I had a duck, a pane of glass, came about maybe 6 or 8 inches from my head. The first thought that came in my mind was I needed to get out of Manhattan as quickly as possible.
Most of those kids in the school left early because everyone was panicking and we wanted to find out what was going on. The buses weren't running, the trains weren't running, so most of us just walked home. I got to the door, I rang the bell, and my dad answered the door, and I was shocked. You know, he was never there in the middle of the day. He said, I was in there. I was just a kid. I didn't know he had clients in the World Trade Center. So I didn't really take him seriously at first. I was like, yeah, sure, Dad, okay. But you were there last week? And he goes, no, I was there this morning. And it turns out he was one of the survivors who escaped.
As soon as he opened the door to get outside the building, the second plane hit right over his head. A plate glass window from a store across the street came flying at him, almost took his head off. He had to duck. He went straight to the subway, got on a train, and headed to Brooklyn.
I just prayed that she would be comforted and that she would not be fearful, that she would have, a sense of that I would be okay.
Finally, my phone rings, and Walter called, and he says, "Honey, I'm fine. I got out of the building. I'm just waiting for a train."
We all felt violated and attacked. We felt unsafe, scared.
To be honest with you, I have mixed feelings. I have feelings of sadness. I have rage. I have anger. It's like a gamut of emotions that I go through. I'm furious at the terrorist. I'm beyond words. It's like, a feeling of helplessness that comes over you that, you think that everything is secure, you're taking care of your family, and then a cowardly act has been perpetuated on your family and on your career and on your job, and it's definitely a feeling of a violation. With God's help, I try to love my enemies. I know in my own strength, especially in the events that happen, I cannot do it in my own strength.
It's very easy to be overwhelmed by everything. It's very easy to be scared.
I kind of felt like it was surreal, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing. It didn't feel like this really happened. You kind of felt like you were in a movie, but it did make you realize that life is short and not to take people and things for granted. That's what it taught me back then, that I needed to really trust God, because things like this will happen, but He protects us.
If you allow God to be there for you, He will. And if you don't know God, to get to know God.
So my husband Walter was a hero on 9/11. He was actually in the towers in 1993 when there was a bombing in the garage. That was a big scare. And ever since then, they would have fire drills every Friday. And he knew not to go in the elevators. They would tell you, if there's ever a fire, go straight to the stairway. So when he saw that the first building was on fire, he alerted everyone in the office to follow him. And he ran straight to the stairway, and the security guard stopped him and said, "No one is authorized to leave this building until further notice." And he said, "I work for Pitney Bowes. I don't work for Morgan Stanley. You can't keep me here." And he pushed past the security guard and ran down 88 flights of stairs with all the people following him. And they all got out, and he survived, and they all survived. So he was a hero that day, because he's the one that noticed that the first tower was on fire, and he's the one that alerted everybody in the office, and he's the one that didn't listen to the security guard, and he didn't stay and wait, because people that stayed and waited never made it out.
We always said my dad had 9 lives because he was always escaping these situations. We were truly grateful that God protected him and saved him. He was always an inspiration to everyone, so we could always hold on to that and truly remember him as a hero.